Cannabis, cannabis will save the planet with cannabis. Cannabis, cannabis is a very useful weed. Cannabis, cannabis will save the planet with cannabis. Cannabis, cannabis is very good indeed.
Good evening. It's evening for me anyway. It's 10 o'clock at night. This is Hemp Works, coming from somewhere near Valencia in Spain. And we're on timeforhempradio.com, the best international cannabis radio in the whole wide world, always will be. And tonight, I've got some. We've been on air for. We've been talking for about 11 minutes, and unfortunately now we only just decided to start recording. So I've got some great guests tonight. I've got Casper coming in. All right, we're going to get him chatting tonight. I've got Laurie Buckley, who her father was just. Well, what I think New York Times put him down a cross between British aristocracy and Dizzy Caspelli. So if you can marry those two together, you get some idea of what this guy was like. And then I got Mr. Muse on there, my mate Stuart. He's come in as well. So we're going to go back to the old Prohibition days because Laurie can pick up on some of those memories. And we were just talking about the Beatles. Laurie, how you doing? Thanks for coming on the show, sweetheart.
It's my pleasure. I love it when I can speak worldwide.
So obviously your dad was quite a big user then, publicly.
Yes, he was. He had been arrested, but no conviction, which kept him from getting his cabaret card in 1960 in New York, where, during the World War II, people were freaked out that talented communists would come into the realm of show business and spy on Americans. So they created the cabaret card where every 2 years, an entertainer, and that means anybody that would work in New York State, they had to sign up, pay $2, get fingerprinted every 2 years. And like the fingerprint was going to change. And if you didn't have in order to get your working card, which was the cabaret card. So Dad, when he was coming back, which he said when we left San Francisco, he said we were going on Cosmic Tour. And he was the momentum of his hip talk, the dialogue, and the work that he had done in his as he was altering comedy was going into storytelling as opposed to every 5 seconds a joke. And Dad is doing these things called the translations of Shakespeare, Edgar Allan Poe, the Bible. Instead of saying friends, Romans, and countrymen, Lord Buckley would say hipsters, twisters, and finger poppin' daddies, knock me your lobes. People go, what do you say? They were flipped, And Dad would take, and he did a piece on Jonah and the whale, and the way he tells Jonah is that the Lord came upon Jonah, and Jonah was really thrilled to see the Lord talking to him. And so the Lord tells Jonah he's got to cross the ocean and go to the Israelites because they're screwing up over there. So Jonah can't imagine how that's going to happen. So the Lord points him over to the great green vine, which he tells he must roll of it, abscond of it, twist of it, and smoke some. So Jonah smokes some and says, I'm off. Here I go, and jumps into the ocean. He swam for like 8 hours, and then he stopped to float on the ocean to take a rest for a moment, and he meets the whale. And the whale says, well, look what I got here. What's this? And he goes, well, I'm here on a message from the Lord. And he starts wailing, talking to the whale. Well, the whale gobbles him up. So now there's Jonah floating inside the whale, and he said he's afraid to go out the front side, and he's scared to go out the back side. He doesn't know what to do, and he cries out. He goes, Lord, do you dig me in this here fish? And the Lord says, I got you covered, Jonah. He goes, I'm hip, you got me covered. You got me. He's freaking and carrying on. So the Lord tells him to go into his watertight pocket and to pull out the great green vine. And he said, light it up and courage will return to you. So on the record, you're hearing like that. And so the whale goes, hey, Jonah, what you smoking in there? He goes, what is it, fish? He goes, fish. That's right, F-I-S-H, fish. So the whale's like, what's going on? And so Jonah's just back talking to him and carrying on. And so, and so, anyway, Jonah comes to realizing that he's going to hit the great sneezing meter. And the whales go, don't touch that, Jonah. Don't touch that. And bam, he sneezes out Jonah onto a beach and into the sweet sand of serenity. And he said, the line is, when you get to it and you cannot do it, there you jolly well are, aren't you? So Dad was talking. I did not know because we didn't name it. It was just a thing in our pad wherever we were. And I didn't even know until I was 23 years old at the Old World's Art Fair in Vegas, looking at a leather bag, and I hear somebody talking my dad's stuff. And I turn around. It's a guy named John Hofstetter, a comic actor, and he's doing Jonah, and that's when it hit me that Jonah was smoking weed. I had no idea all those years. But, of course, the hipsters spoke to each other through their records and their dialogues because the hip talk was so that the master would not be hip to what was going on.
Yeah.
So and of course the hip talk became the slang, and of course it just went on to be beautiful. And how my dad would love it now to be in a realm where people could light up and be cool, because it happened all the time in my house, you know. But and my dad offered it to me when I was 8 years old. But I was a princess born into a royal court that existed only amongst those that agreed that it was so. And I had no need for anything that smoked. Of course, I made up for it later when I was about 22. But it was such a beautiful thing. And because what I love about it so much is that when I'm starting out my day, or for me it's later on in the evening now, but the beauty of the cannabis, not only internally, but the beauty of it, that it takes your normal stress, the crap you go through life, when you take some hits and you've got some decent weed, is that all that disappears. And you're up in the higher realm of creation and artistic thoughts, imagination, and you can actually groove in your hemisphere and dig it. And without all those little difficulties of things that actually mean nothing in the long run of life. But the beauty of that, to allow you to feel beautiful and celebrate your moment in the sunshine, is a hell of a good deal. And that's what I love about it. When I'm feeling squeaky, I go, must be time to light up the divvy and go get real.
Beautifully put. Beautifully put.
And there we are.
We must remember as well, all the people that use it, to take their pain away, because that makes you feel like you're in heaven too. If you've been suffering all day and you get a lick of the herb, whether it be through a tincture, a concentrate, whatever way you're taking it, that it's doing you good, then you really do realise, oh my God, this is sacred weed, man. Yeah, because everything they've ever given me before ain't made me feel like this. Because it keeps me alive, that's for sure.
It's an amazing thing. It's a miracle. I bet the ancients knew it already, but of course.
Oh, without a doubt.
Yeah. It's a love affair. It's a love affair with something that the earth gave us. You know, and
yes, with many other plants who have still been getting the heat that they don't deserve, because big pharma can't stand the competition, and then that's just too damn bad, because the proof is in the pudding, as of course Steve knows and has learned, and many others now. Thank goodness, even though there's the pressure still on. To constantly put the pressure and keep it and slow down the pace, but having to, because of the beauty of people and the wonderful enchanting path to opportunity and reality, we are learning that it once you can take out the THC content and that herb still serves you, it still is there for you. And that is the greatest miracle of gift of a natural world, of the word natural that's real, to see it come forward and be healing us and saving lives and stopping epileptic seizures. And the beauty of it is so profound. It's an honor to be alive at a time when we're understanding this transition.
Yeah.
And it's why I've been growing her since the early 70s. I just, it's again that love affair with this plant that's so versatile and helps so many people, including myself. I'm a patient myself with chronic pain, and you know what? This is helping a lot of people, and as you say, it doesn't require the THC, the CBDs and CBNs and CBGs are all finding efficacy in different areas. So it's just the more we research, the more we find.
And the more we use her, the more she gives.
That's right.
Imagine it took all these decades of we've tortured, we murdered, we confiscated, and in a horror system over a bunch of bullshit. And,
do you know one thing that scares me? One thing that really does scare me, right? If they hid this fucking plant from us, what else are they fucking hidden? Because how they managed to hide this plant from us all and tell us that it wasn't what it was, with all the history and all of what's going on with it, that's absolutely amazing. So if they've hidden this, they must have hidden loads of other fucking shit.
Yes.
And I think that's fucking scary, because this one is the one that's so out there, and it's just so in your face.
It is scary, and also I just think, just for a moment, we should thank, or at least think about, all the people that have paved the way and paved the way for us to be where we are now, which is legalization and hopefully the full repeal of prohibition. But many people have gone to prison. Many people have died over this, including
many
deceased wife. And the laws. This prohibition has caused misery throughout the world in families, children being taken away, and all over a botanical herb that does nothing but help people.
That has served humanity since the beginning of time.
Well, look what they did when they brought paraquat in, put poison on a beautiful natural thing, and then allowed police. How difficult was it to bust a pot smoker? Not hard at all. And yet people that were, I'm trying to think of a gentleman up in Malibu, they had destroyed his place, end up killing him for all the wrong reasons, and then confiscating whatever they wanted to. This was needless, greedy, horror things that come along as the friends of a negating situation, and it's that I do all I can to remind people that just like our government, how can we trust them? Look at pharmaceutical. The FDA, it used to take $20 million in 11 years to get an approval on a drug. Now they take all the information from the corporations that submit them. They don't have the facilities to actually study crap unless it comes an issue and they have to cover their ass. But it's amazing that we've got these regulations that are still interfering with us today. And look at Monsanto. Monsanto, who would, if it could be born Mother Nature, it wishes it could. But now they're growing, GMO weed. I said people were chirping when they heard Uruguay. Oh, hey, everything's great. They're going to be growing up there. I said, yeah, with mutant seeds. The mutation, what I call it, the mutation of the original violation. They're wishing they could be natural, but they'll never be natural.
And who are the real criminals?
The regulators who buy it, and Monsanto, who started buying seed companies back in the early 90s. They were buying up seed right and left, companies up, with this grand takeover that they talked a lot of people, like Hillary Clinton, like Bill Gates, who thinks it's all the GMOs, right? But he's eating organic. We've got all of these people in a position, because Monsanto, I call them Monster Santo when they're not looking, they've gone in and infiltrated our government all over profit sharing on a horrible concept of putting in pesticides into seeds. And they may be aluminum resistant, like from the chemtrails and things, but they are not healthy for our bodies. And they're finding out it can also help to create cancer with GMO processing. So, luckily, because of while we can still speak freely, is people are talking with each other and spreading this news. And unfortunately for Uruguay, they went to a poor country and dangled a big cookie in front of them. They bought it. But meanwhile, all the people growing natural seed will now be arrested and harassed because the GMO seed takes over the power of the country. That is just another crime. Same kind of thing we went through in an interesting way like we did in the 30s.
Laurie, can I ask you a question? Is that actual fact that Monsanto have got seed into Uruguay? Or is that just
yes? Go look it up, baby. Just look it up, and you'll find it. You'll find it. I got it out of Natural World, something like that. We spoke about it on Terry's show because I just happened to have years ago, because I was a clipping fiend, I used to love to clip stories. I'd actually saved the story on Monsanto buying up seed companies back in the early 90s. But yes, we spoke about it. I'm trying to think of his name right now. I can't think of it. George Soros brought it to Uruguay. So just look it up. You'll get this. Anybody can on the wide web.
Muse would put me right on this, but I don't think there is anything that Monsanto can do to that seed, to be honest with you.
No, they've made a mutant seed already. They've grown their own seed.
I know what Steve, the fact is Monsanto is very good at manipulating genes, and they can do pretty much what they want with whatever they want, whether it's an animal or a vegetable. But I must say, as a caveat to that we as breeders and growers, and myself as a pioneer of indoor growing, there is genetic modification going on, but in a natural way. I mean, that's how we get all these hybrids.
You let them breed.
There are no pure indicas. There are no pure sativas anymore. Almost everything is going to be one or the other, and that's done basically, pollination. And that's not natural selection. That's me and others with experienced hands going in and trying to create a better medicine by combining the attributes of two very good plants. So, I'm not defending Monsanto. Believe me, they're
know you're not.
Monster, big farm. Trust me.
In my experience with this plant and this seed, is it will always go back to its original.
Well, here's what you have to remember. Is that the greenheads, because it's all about the money. It's not all about the base. It's all about the money. And so because of that, they've created a seed product that can only harvest one time, because they want, that's what there were India farmers that were committing suicide because their first crop was a disappointment, but then they had to go back and buy the same seed again, because you can't go back and reharvest the old seeds. They're gone. Yeah. So what happened is that their return was so low, and that way these farmers could not feed their families. Thousands of farmers killed themselves in India. Yeah, they got lots of people, but that did not, and that's why Europe, with 64 countries now, said no to GMO, because you only get one crop with each set of seeds. That's how mutant.
It's also as well all the pesticides that they have to spray on to keep the crops alive. You see, it ruins the topsoil. It kills everything off in the soil.
That's
everything, all the bugs, everything it kills. So then they have to keep putting more fertilizers on to refeed. It's Frankenstein.
And not only that, but it can take over ecosystems. When
it certainly can.
They're monster creations that are created in labs, not natural procreation, but when these kind of modifications are done in labs and then they're let loose into the environment, we've already found out that we can't contain them. I mean, Monsanto had some test fields, and sure enough, that strain got out. And they never were able to fully eradicate it and get it back under control. So, you have to be careful. Like you say, it can be Pandora's box. So that's what they're playing with.
Well, they just want to smother us, and not for goodwill. I mean, I don't know what Bill Gates is thinking. Maybe he's thinking, that'll help feed hungry people. Yeah, but they're going to have 3 eyes. But
if you want to feed hungry people, you just plant hemp seed. That's the best nutrition on the planet, and you get your crop back in 60 to 90 days. And for every seed you plant, you might get 5 kilos of seed back. You only need a handful a day. That's basic human nutrition. So it's all bullshit. When they talk about anything else, it's bullshit. Because if people want to feed the world, you plant hemp. Simple.
Well, but they've made it be, if you're a Monsanto farmer here, you are not allowed. You cannot go back and pick up any seed. You can they contractually make you to come to their rule. Yeah. And as a result, imagine the very first time I heard about it, there was a farmer who had Monsanto bought all the land around his farm. Yeah. And then because the seed, one of the GMO seeds, blew over into his farm by the wind, they charged him, sued him that he was invading their copyright, and forced him, after so many times and so many appearances in court, he lost his farm.
Of course not, just corporate bullies.
This is how I began to notice them. I go, anybody that would screw over a farmer over this type of situation.
When they came to England in 1998, right, they got a test field in England. And the test field was next to a place called Henry Doubleday's. Henry Doubleday's is the ancient botanical gardens that stores all the original seed, heirloom seeds. All right? Not just organic, heirloom seeds. This is the storehouse for them. Monsanto tried to put a crop in next door to them. Yeah? Our Minister of Environment at the time, Michael Meechan, I think his name was, resigned from the government, and we put white suits on, and people went down that field and just ripped it out, because Monsanto knew back then what they was up to. They're just criminals. They're just corporate criminals. There's no other word for them.
Imagine anyone trying to pitch the world that only buy our seed and to destroy every option of a natural seed.
Absolutely. All the bees are down to them. They killed all the bees off with their fucking crap crops. That's what's killing fucking bees. Yeah?
I mean, that sounds like some sort of Hitler-esque me and only me, and you will only get what I give you, and controlling the world. Next thing you know, it's going to be 10 cents for air. You know, it's the insanity of it, and to have infiltrated our government on such an extreme level here in our country that we can't even admit it. Where how come 64 other countries can admit it and say, yeah, this is what has happened, but us, we can't even label it because it will just shatter the grocery stores who have already been sucking up the demon seeds to begin with. You know, so where are we? But all we can do is keep constant and keep active and keep saying, label it.
The trouble is, in big industrial countries, you have to say America, also Great Britain, by the way, we'd fall into that category as well. That if you remove the Monsanto contamination, unfortunately, there'd be no fucking foods left on the shelf.
Well, here in America, we have a unique situation where recently the Supreme Court declared that corporations are people, and they have rights as people. Unfortunately, you can't throw IBM in jail. You can't throw Monsanto in jail.
No.
However, they have the same legal rights against defamation, against virtually everything, and all sorts.
Well, they got to the Supreme Court, which is I call them the Supreme Court.
Laurie has that one spot on, and the fact is you know, I mean, this is a different conversation, but the fact is these companies are very large and very powerful and controlled by a very, very few. And what are we going to do about it? You know, it takes activism. It takes continuing to push. I spoke with Keith Straub, the founder of Normal, when I was giving a speech on CBDs in Dallas, and he didn't expect to see legalization in his lifetime. And I poked him in the side, and I said, I think you're wrong. I think you're wrong, and I'm hoping he's wrong. I'm hoping that we'll see a domino effect, and that now that we're halfway here in the States, the other states will start rushing to get revenue, because that's the way they see it. They see it as a revenue source. But if it gets it to patients, then that's a first step, and then we can work on the unwinding prohibition, just as they did with the alcohol prohibition.
Yes, we're up against a tremendously big mountain. But the beauty of, you know, I have a slogan. It says, the only thing the truth lacks in this world is a sponsor. And people are slowly awakening to the horrors of the fact that we have a Congress that's been bought and sold, that they speak so much crap to the people, that Donald Trump has a life in our situation. A guy with his own money comes in and starts questioning things and acting and being kind of the simple-minded but big business guy, and he literally has shattered a party which needed a good spanking to begin with. And not to mention that
he has a funny-looking wig. That's kind of It looks like a rat sitting on his head. But I guess the question I would pose, and this applies to cannabis as well as all of our freedoms, is will these 8 families or 100 families or 1,000 families or whatever the number might be that actually control the wealth of this country, are they going to let us vote their wealth away? I think the answer to that is obvious. They're not.
Well, they've got to eat something now. See, they could. The thing is that eventually, I like the story. You hit to the 100th monkey story about the 3 islands in the Pacific, and when a monkey dropped his banana into the sand, he ate a sandy banana. And then one day, on one of the islands, the monkey happened to toss it into the ocean, realized he could rinse it, and after 100 monkeys on that island stopped eating sandy bananas, the other 2 islands did what I'll call universal mind and began washing their bananas. I think we know our voting machines are rigged. We know Diebold here in California. A name like Diebold, the ones who said they couldn't wait to deliver the presidency to Bush, the 2 stolen elections that we had to endure through. But the thing is, I really believe in the intellect. Money can only go so far, but greed is not a tasty sandwich if it's going to ruin everybody's food.
Do you think central government is just going to be a thing of the past?
Well, I've heard some disturbing things. I always file everything under interesting because my dad said, do not die before you are killed. So you don't want to be in freakdom worrying about everything. But they're talking about the chip again in people. They're talking about the end of banks and some sort of one world, copulation. It's like, really, dudes. But I have to observe, but I believe truth spoken in perfect order creates a tremendous response and a result. And that's why I think truth is what the great thing about truth is it tastes good to people when you're in the room. When you don't have it, it's no longer palatable. And I believe we're awakening, and I'm hoping we can fight this thing.
So would you see this as almost a collective mind or a collective awakening like what we saw in the 60s? Will this one day become common sense, which, as we both know, or as we all know, is unto common? Is that what you're saying, Laurie? Is that we're moving to a social dynamic change?
I taught in prisons for 7 years on a volunteer program. 17 people, including me. I came out and taught them personal promotion. I'd look at a class full of prisoners and I said, I understand that you cannot laugh and keep your dick hard at the same time. I said, so I'm going to be very funny in this class. Oh, they'd laugh. And I taught them a little metaphysics. I taught them how to make things happen from nothing, what you could do to make money and survive and have a life past this prison life and not to come back. And I believe that we've learned through the only way we can find out is when we spend a lot of money and waste it on bullshit and prisons and private
prisons, yeah.
Yeah, which was wrong because but see the trouble with the greedheads, they signed a state up who's already had bad laws and was too lazy to change them or too religiously strangled to get on the boot. And as a result, they go, oh, well, with this privatized, they'll take all of our prisoners off our hands. We won't have that money that we have to pay out. But what happens is, and then the privatized prisons put up the money to fight and lobby against any illegal things that are going to become legal. They fight them to try to keep their profits. And if there's not enough people to go to the privatized prison, then they start billing to the state back.
And they're locking up our brothers and sisters, and of course they have every reason financially to find these prisoners, say, out of compliance, write them up, get them to stay there an additional 6 months. And this is a profiteering racket that is akin to human slavery. It's despicable, and private prisons should be shut down.
And believe me, people are talking about it big time because, I think we're getting smarter. We've had so many, like carnival shows, dog and pony shows, not any thing to say about dogs and ponies, but it's the fact that we, because they're more human than the large other group of people, but we've been distracted. We've been sold. I mean, look at our whole life at television is made up of friggin' vampires and zombies, you know, and it's very entertaining to some people. It doesn't do a thing for me, but I think that the level of consciousness is evolving, because what did the president do? First president to go to a prison and talk to people and tell us about how we have to change all these irrational laws and punishments that no longer suit the crime, all this victimless crime. You know, what you do to your own body, you should be put in friggin' jail, really? You know, and it spends an endless gazillions of money promoting war on drugs, which was war on people. They used to say, just say no to Nancy. And the hassle by building all this crap has cost us so much money. And the great thing of running out of money is you get to see where you spent it, what served you and what didn't serve you. Like when I taught in the prisons, it cost so much money to talk to your family on a prison phone because AT&T just couldn't make enough money off of your misery. And I'm sure the prisons shared in profits. I can even tell you the amazing stories of vegetable and fruit trucks pulling up to a prison. The truck stays there, some money's exchanged, and boom, the truck goes to another place to sell off its buns. We have got to. When I worked within the Street Readiness Program, Richard Castle was retiring. He was in charge of the pre-release program at Gene and Indian Springs. And I said to Mr. Castle, because I came in for 7 years and volunteered because I know it was the truth of change and that these people did not all have to return. And it was the first time in the history of the Nevada penal system that the recidivism rate dropped at no cost to the state. And I said, Mr. Castle, with all your years in this, I go, what's the most profound thing you learned? And he said to me, we need to redefine the word punishment. And I go, there it is. And there it is now. And these states are getting a wake-up call. They spent their lives, their money, their taxes on a worthless group of people that can't wait to come back and attack them when the laws change. And so I believe in this realization, because we got it, true spoken and perfect order can create a tremendous result. And that's what I work from. You know, when you educate people and you get that biblical crap out of the way, like they say Japan and America built on the biblical punishment, an eye for an eye and all that bullshit. Now you got two blind people, you know, and this, we are changing, we are evolving. And I believe now, especially with people that are sick, like what you've gone through, Steve, and it's just an amazing gift that we have to now back up. Yep. We were wrong. We allowed it. We stole and murdered and trashed people's lives for lies. Now, if that lie's in there, well, there's got to be a whole bunch more of them in there, too. But we're going to find them because they no longer...
But you're talking about all these private prisons. Again, one's you know, the statistics in my country and the statistics in your country and the statistics in a lot of other countries show that a high percentage of the prison population are for drugs. And a lot of those drugs are called marijuana or cannabis. Yeah. So once it destroys everything. You see, this is the thing about this plant. Whichever it's making dispute over politics. It's shamed the law. It's shamed politicians. It's shamed lawyers. It's shamed healthcare. Healthcare is totally collapsing. Chemo is a fucking industry that's been murdering and lying and telling fucking untruths about this bullshit fucking chemo. And they've been hiding it. So everywhere you look, whenever this cannabis plant goes, it totally brings out the truth. It really does. It's bringing so much into disrepute.
That's true. And Laurie is right. You know, I mean, I think that ultimately we will win the battle because truth ultimately prevails. And as Edmund Burke once said, the only thing worse than evil is to sit back and watch people and do nothing. That's right. That's to paraphrase. And
no, it's true.
And it is true. And I lived in Texas, which is a very for example, the United States. But
who's doing a bong?
It went from its largest industries went from cattle to when it busted, to oil to when it busted, to tech to when it busted, and now the largest private industry in the state of Texas is private prisons. They haul people in all over the nation and lock them up like cattle. And if you're familiar with the psychological studies where they put blue-eyed people and brown-eyed people in a room together, and they say, well, gee, the blue-eyed people are better inherently, that happens in a penal situation where they're called inherently they're better.
Well, Texas doesn't even want women to have affordable health care. They think because they're such a big giant state that more babies is going to be a solution, which it never will be. Without choice, we have nothing. And I'm hoping that all the vaginas work on the agenda and get it together and go back and straighten out the injustice that's been done to human beings.
Texas is 30 years behind us, Laurie. I have to tell you, they're still marching outside of Planned Parenthood.
Well, you remember the story about the woman, Dennis, her and her husband had a business together. She found him cheating. And so she ran over him 3 times in the parking lot. And people wondered, why 3 times? Because a true Texas insult has to have 3 adjectives. So... So I have to say, gentlemen, I have to pick up my grandson from school.
Oh, bless. Laurie, thank you so much. You've been
an honor and a pleasure to commiserate the truth and to encourage people that free thinking is still something going on. And
you can still do it.
And the openness and the beauty of discussing what's up is where it's at.
So nice meeting you, Laurie.
My
nice
pleasure.
One, I'll leave you have a lovely day with your grandson.
I'll leave you with Lord Buckley's quote. He said, "People are the true flowers of life, and what a pleasure it has been to walk through the gardens of your attention."
Oh, bless. That's lovely. Thank you.
All my love, my gentlemen. All my love.
Namaste.
One love, baby. One love.
Talk to you soon, gentlemen. Bye-bye.
Bye.
She's lovely. She's lovely, huh? Her dad was really quite famous. Huh?
You know what, Steve, that's one of those times when I think you might want to invite her back. I think you wish she could speak all day and have interesting things to say.
Oh, absolutely. I love listening to her.
My understanding is just briefly, is that her father affected Ken Kesey, George Harrison, Frank Zappa, Robin Williams,
Lenny Bruce,
Jimmy Buffett, Bob Dylan. What a diverse group! Lenny Bruce. So I'm sure she had an amazing childhood.
I bet she did.
I can imagine she came to dinner, and as she said, there was a great smell in her house.
I bet there was. Oh, man. What a time to be born around that lot.
Can we thank Tony Macaroni for the nice intro?
Yeah, I've not spoken to him for ages. I must go and find out where he is.
Well, we just did. We just did, anyway, unless
we just did. And a big blessing out to Beth. This Beth. Oh, Beth, miss you.
You know what? She hasn't even called, so I don't.
Yeah, busy lady, that one.
Dr. Beth will return to the show. She's anxious to do so, but she wants to be able to do so.
So, Muse, we've got a few minutes left. What are you up to? What's going on in your world? Anything you can talk about?
Yeah, you know what? We recently had the finest crop of my life, of my career.
Ooh!
Over a 40-year indoor growing career. So I'm very proud of that. It's 100% organic, and we defeated the dreaded two-spotted spider mite, and they came out absolutely gorgeously. And I suspect we're going to put them into LST with nitrogen, long-term storage.
Wow.
Gas rather, and with nitrogen, so that we can enjoy them for some time to come. But I have to say, we had quite an abundant yield, and we were really truly blessed. And that comes once again from your co-host, Dr. Fish. You know, she's taken over some aspects of that, and you know her. She's very precise, and because of that, we see it. And the little girls.
Maybe it's a combination of a bit of love in there as well, a bit more love.
You know, I think
this child does love love. You know, there's a little bit of love going on.
She has classical music going for them, and but you know what? I mean, honestly, we were very pleased with that. We have photographs. We have a number of videos. We're teaching some classes to master level growers, but unfortunately, the climate in Washington State has made it such that we can't post them in real time. We can't post our pictures or our videos because the laws are changing daily, and they're lowering the number of plants that people can grow, and we simply don't want any part of that. So we admire what Oregon is doing. Oregon has actually proposed to release all of their cannabis prisoners, I believe.
Wow.
I don't think that law is passed, but it's certainly been proposed.
Well, they're talking about it. So
yeah, well, that's where Casper lives, and so he would know more about that. But I admire what Colorado has done, and even some things that California has done. But Washington is doing a very poor job of implementation. So rather than be on the wrong side of the law, we're simply.
Hughes, I've got to say, it's gone, mate. We've got to wrap it up. I've got to cut you dead. Boom.
That's it. There you go.
I'm so sorry. Well,
that's all right.
I was just getting into it. I was just really enjoying it. Look, it's a good night from me. It's a good night from him, and it's a good night from Casper. We've had great fun tonight, and I hope you've enjoyed it. And we'll speak to you next week.
Wasn't it
good
nice?
Night, guys.
Laurie on.
Municipal violations. They're the small, everyday ways of breaking the law, like speeding, or trespassing, or, and this is true, failing to vaccinate your ferret. That is actually against the law, so sorry, ferret Jenny McCarthy, you're just going to have to get it done. The point is, we have all committed municipal violations, and if you've never gotten a ticket for one, all I can say is, congratulations on not getting caught. Now, for most people, tickets are just annoying. We grin and bear them, or, as in the case of this young woman, throw a passive-aggressive tantrum.
Citations for...
I know, my headlights went on, yada, yada, yada.
Yes, you're right. But citations for not having your headlights on. Take care of this ticket on before the third... Oh, hold on, but let me explain it, okay?
I totally get it. Like, it's a ticket, I need to pay it, I'm late.
You just know that woman behaves that way in every situation. Yeah, I totally get it. It's a funeral. Mindy was a person. Now she's going to be, like, eaten by worms. Just put her in the ground so I can get to Soul Cycle. I'm late. God. Now, she's probably not thought about that ticket until, I'm guessing, round about now, when she's getting a lot of text messages from friends saying, Amber, you're totally on HBO right now, shouting at a cop. But if you don't have enough money to pay a fine immediately, tickets can wreck your life. Let me introduce you to a woman named Harriet Cleveland. She had some low-level traffic tickets, but because she couldn't pay them straight away, she accumulated all kinds of other fees and additional tickets, which, despite her best efforts, she was unable to pay off. And then, one morning, this happened.
I had my grandbaby with me, and I was sitting up giving him breakfast that morning, and I heard a knock on the door, and I seen a police officer at my door. And in the back of my mind, it wasn't for me, because I didn't figure they'd come get you for tickets. I was escorted to jail.
And if you're thinking, how the fuck is it possible for a grandmother to go to jail for traffic tickets, well, that is what this story is about. Because let's start at the beginning. Most tickets come with a fine, and if you've ever lived paycheck to paycheck, you know that can be difficult. For example, in DeKalb County, Alabama, a speeding ticket is $255.50. If you earn minimum wage there, $7.25 an hour, it would take you more than 35 hours of work to pay that off, which seems harsh, because the only justifiable way you should lose an entire week of your life due to speeding is if you hit 88 miles an hour and go back in time. And sometimes governments will take a reasonable base fine and turn it into something that people may not be able to afford, as they've done in California.
The actual fine for running a stop sign is $35, but by the time the state tacks on 10 different surcharges and fees, the amount you owe jumps to $238.
Now, just to put that in perspective, I went on eBay this morning and $238 is the current asking price for this glorious unicorn with wheels on its hooves. So that's right. If you live in California and run a stop sign, you can either pay your ticket or own a unicorn. Now, courts know that not everyone can pay fines straight away, which is why some allow a payment plan. Unfortunately, that can turn out to be even more expensive.
In Illinois, the state adds on 30% if you fall behind in your payments. In New Orleans, it costs you $100 just to sign up for a payment plan.
Yes, your payment plan begins with a payment plan payment. It's like your probation officer is MC Escher. Just go pay the clerk at the top of that endless staircase. You'll be fine. And this situation is widespread. At least 44 states charge people a fee to be on probation, and many municipalities use these charges as a way to fund local services without raising taxes. And if that rings a bell at all to you, it may be because of Ferguson, Missouri. Because when the recent Department of Justice report uncovered institutional racism, it found one of the ways it manifested was in the use of fines as a cash machine.
The report says officers competed to see who could write the most tickets. It also concludes police officers' promotions depended on citation revenue. Then there's the story of a police commander who one day bragged to his superiors about seeing a steady stream of people, 10 to 15 deep, waiting in line for hours to pay traffic fines. He wrote, "The court clerk girls have been swamped." And the city manager responded, "Great work."
Okay, setting aside the fact that he used the phrase court clerk girls, that situation is ridiculous. The only people who should be that excited about people waiting in line to hand over way too much money are Apple executives. That's the only time. And if you couldn't pay immediately in Ferguson, they could bleed you dry. Listen to just one example.
In 2007, one woman received 2 parking tickets that together totaled $152. To date, she has paid $550 in fines and fees to the city of Ferguson. Yet today, she still inexplicably owes Ferguson $541.
That's more than $1,000 for $150 in tickets. Even people stocking hotel minibars are thinking, that markup seems a little high. Just settle down. And the thing is, using fines to fund government was not happening just in Ferguson, as a recent study of the surrounding area showed.
According to court records, 8 towns rely on court fines and fees for more than 30% of their revenue. Calverton Park is at the 66% level.
66%? When that much of your budget comes from fines, you're actually rooting for people to break the law. Listen, everyone, we're going to have to close the library unless someone urinates up that wall and the rest of us start driving like maniacs. So put the pedal to the metal, let's do it for the kids. And the problem is, in these situations, the poor get hurt the worst. In many states, failure to pay a fine on time can even result in having your driving licence suspended. In fact, this is such a common practice that in Orange County, Florida, they even made an event out of it.
The Grinch himself showed up in Orange County with a bag full of licenses belonging to drivers who've been more naughty than nice.
We're sending the message that if you're going to come out here and you're going to drive in a manner that affects somebody else's life or safety, that we're going to impact your life.
Okay. First of all, you do know the Grinch is the bad guy in that story, right? It's not about a brave green crime fighter who saves Whoville from a guy driving his sleigh 10 miles over the speed limit. But secondly, The Grinch's argument that this was all about affecting people's lives and safety was somewhat undercut a little later in the same report.
Many of these licenses were suspended simply because the drivers didn't pay a traffic ticket.
Exactly. Those licenses weren't all taken from reckless drivers. The odds are they were mostly taken from insolvent drivers. In 2012 in Florida, a staggering 88% of all license suspensions were due to failure to comply with summons or fines, which is insane. It also leaves only 12% for Florida's other most common violations: accidentally taking your golf cart on the freeway, feeding meth to an alligator, feeding an alligator to a meth dealer, and being an alligator meth dealer. Florida. The problem is, if you do lose your license, it can affect everything. Most Americans drive to work, and if you can't do that, you've got a problem. In New Jersey, a survey of low-income drivers who'd had their license suspended found that 64% had lost their jobs as a result, which doesn't help anyone. You need them to pay their fine, but you're taking away their means of paying it. That's the most self-defeating idea since gay conversion camp. Hey, don't worry, boys, we'll fix you. It's swimming in the morning, wrestling in the afternoon, and in the evening, general horseplay in the woods. You'll be fine, chaps. So, let's recap. If you get a ticket and you can't pay it, you may get additional fines, lose your licence, and eventually your job. And if you're thinking, is there any way this whole situation can be made even worse? Relax, there is. Because now private companies have somehow managed to insert themselves.
Private probation companies across the U.S. supervise people who are on probation for minor offenses, collect all of their outstanding debts and fines and court costs, and they won't charge the courts a penny. Instead, probationers pay them fees in exchange for their services.
Yes, companies like Judicial Correction Services and Sentinel Offender Services offer to supervise probationers and collect fees on the court's behalf at no cost. They even market themselves with ads like this one for JCS, trumpeting the millions of dollars they collect for municipalities. The problem is, that money is a lot like Wendy's chili. It's fantastic to have, just as long as you don't think about where it came from. Because it can come from people like Haley Woods.
August of last year, I got a no seatbelt ticket.
How much was that ticket for?
The ticket was $25 and court cost was $16, which was $41. And then I didn't have the money to pay, so they put me on JCS probation.
That's right. Haley was handed over to JCS probation because she couldn't pay a $41 ticket. They put her on a payment plan with a monthly fee of $35. The problem for Haley was any money she sent in was applied to her JCS fees first and not her $41 ticket, which put her in a hamster wheel of hell.
This one right here shows I paid another $10. Shows that the fees went down, but the fine is still $41. I've told the judge that I had the money to pay for the ticket and I couldn't afford the rest of the fees, and he said that that wasn't his problem, that I could just put that $41 towards the probation. And then I got another one that shows I paid $41 even, and the fine has not been touched, not one time, all the money I've paid.
Wow. So if you have money, the state slogan is click it or ticket. But if you don't, it should really be buckle yourself or go fuckle yourself. And in case you are somehow not angry enough by now, just remember how this system works if you do have money.
I know, my headlights went on, yada, yada, yada.
Let me explain it, okay?
I totally get it. Like, it's a ticket, I need to pay it, I'm late.
You didn't think it was possible to dislike her anymore, did you? Amber, you're back on TV. This is sick. And it's not just that these private probation companies can take your money. Their recommendations to the court can ultimately send you to jail. Take the case of Tom Barrett. He's a veteran who stole a $2 can of beer, which he knows he should not have done. And when he couldn't pay his fine, he was referred to Sentinel Offender Services. Now, in addition to all their other fees, they gave Tom a court-ordered leg monitor for which they charged him $360 a month, $12 a day. To keep up on his payments, he had to start selling his own plasma. And where do you think this story ended?
I ended up having to walk everywhere because I couldn't afford bus fare.
I went hungry because I couldn't afford food. It was $12 a day, and there was no way I could make $12 a day, so I was always falling behind. So I ended up getting locked up 3 times over stealing this can of beer.
Locked up 3 times over stealing 1 can of beer. That is not justice. That's the plot of a southern Les Miserables. I dreamed a dream, I stole a course, and then some assholes put me in jail. The crazy thing is, the most insane part of this is, the main reason municipalities sign contracts with these companies is to save money, and yet this whole system doesn't even make sense on a financial basis. Because as Tom Barrett's lawyer explains, locking him up was expensive.
I know the jailing cost $50 a day, and I think he was probably in jail for at least 60 days or 70 days, so probably over $3,500.
So just think about that. A $2 can of beer caused a $270 fine, which the city spent over $3,000 to try and enforce. But you know what? It's like they say, you got to spend money to make money to be able to afford to jail people to lose money. That's the system, right? And all this brings us right back to where we began with Harriet Cleveland, because her story touches on pretty much everything we've seen so far. How did Harriet wind up in jail? Well, she struggled to pay traffic tickets, had her licence suspended, had to keep driving or she'd lose her job, was then caught driving without a licence, ticketed again, and then had her fines handed over to the good people at JCS. And I'll let her pick up the story from there.
I just really lost a whole lot of money paying to them. That didn't go into my fine. I lost my car trying to pay them. I did a title loan on my car and lost that. And trying to pay my utility bills, you know, and they getting shut off here and there. Well, I wanted to pay my fine, but I couldn't afford it. And like I said, it just hurt my heart. And I didn't even have that to take, but I had to take something. Till it got to a point I just got tired, and I couldn't take anything anymore. I paid him $2,000 one time when I got my income tax. And then that was in February. And in March, I just didn't have anything else to give him.
That is awful. Now, the Southern Poverty Law Centre eventually managed to get her out of jail after 10 days, arguing that she'd been sent to what was effectively a debtor's prison, something that was supposed to have been fucking outlawed in America in the 1830s. But the truth is, whether through private probation or just the state, many people have been caught in the same cycle as all the people that we've seen. And let's be clear, no one is saying that people who break the law should not be punished. This isn't about being soft on crime. Listen to Tom Barrett's self-proclaimed conservative Republican lawyer.
If someone violates the rules of society, they need to be punished. But the punishment need to have some, if it's going to be based on a fine, it had to be based on the person's ability to pay. If they don't have the ability to pay, they can pick up trash on the streets or they can have some community service.
I think pretty much everyone would agree with that. Not only should municipalities not be balancing their books on the backs of some of their most vulnerable citizens, but we cannot have a system where committing a minor violation can end up putting you in, and I'm going to use a legal term of art here, the barrel. We can't have that. And it might be time that we all stood up and said so.
I'm a hostess. I'm a barista.
I'm a cashier.
I'm a utility inspector.
I am a hairstylist. I'm a janitor and cook.
We are all Americans, and we have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But sometimes in that pursuit, we also need the right to fuck up once in a while without it completely destroying our lives.
I've jaywalked before, all the time actually.
I have gotten a speeding ticket.
Yeah, I mean, I've publicly urinated maybe once or twice.
Public drunkenness.
Of course your boy been drunk in public, baby.
Got tickets for spitting on the floor.
I got a ticket for petty loitering.
I got arrested for smoking weed at a concert, and then I met Jizza from Wu-Tang, and he gave me a VIP pass back into the concert, so thank you, Jizza.
Yes, thank you, Jizza. And when we truly made a mistake, we're all willing to pay a price. But that price should be reasonable, and private companies should not be profiting from someone's inability to pay.
One time, I put a popsicle in my friend's ass.
Okay, that doesn't really apply to what we're talking about here, but thanks for sharing. The point is, this is everyone's problem. Young, old, black, white. It's not about race.
It's definitely about race.
Race definitely plays into it for sure.
I highly doubt that loitering thing I got would have happened to me if I was, forget about me being white, if I was like a couple of shades lighter.
Okay, you're right. It's absolutely about race as well. But it's also about basic fairness. And it has to stop. Because people cannot end up in a barrel for the little stuff we all do. So it's time for us all to come together and say, as one,
shut down the barrel.
Shut down the barrel.
Shut down the barrel.
Shut down the barrel. I said shut down the barrel.
Shut down the barrel, please.
yes, shut down the barrel. Shut it down.